Hi, this is the part 2 series on Biztalk plus Logic App are better together. We will walk through the steps involved in channelizing the communication from the Logic App to the on-premises Biztalk server 2016. And if you see, there's a chart of a comparison between part 1 and part 2. The part 1 is already done and I've shared the video link here. Whereas in part 2 you see more number of steps involved. The reason is simple, that we have to set up the Biztalk 2016 CTP2 adapter logic app, then we have to work on the IS endpoints, and obviously there's one more important thing, that is data gateway. So that takes more number of steps. Well, for a secure connection or a communication to happen between logic app and the Biztalk server which is installed on your premises, we need a couple of things here. A, there should be a gateway resource in your Azure subscription, and the point second is that you should also install and configure the gateway on your Biztalk server. So this portion is on premises, and the layer on the top with logic app onwards is on the cloud. Now on your premises you need to also set up a IS endpoint, and through this endpoint the schemas and your receive location would be exposed to the designer on a logic app, and from logic app, based on the schema, you can push in the message to the Biztalk server via IS endpoint. But remember that at no moment of time we are exposing the machine or the Biztalk server to the internet. Whatever is happening via this secure tunnel of gateway, So this gateway plays an important role for ensuring that the communication is secured and encrypted and things like that. Well, let's move forward with the steps. Before I get into the formal step 1, step 2, let me first give you an idea of what I intend to do. For this I have a Visual Studio solution ready of Biztalk inside the Visual Studio, and if you see, it's a plain simple example with one schema with first name and last name. There's no orchestration, there's no mapping, and I've deployed it. And if we see it in the Biztalk administrator tool, we do have a receive port. We don't have a send port as yet, but let's start with, we have a send port also. Let me delete this, so later on I can configure it. So let me unlist it and then stop it also. Delete it. Done. So I just have a receive port now. There's no receive location. But if I work on this and try to configure the receive location, but before that, what I want to do is go and install the Biztalk CTP2 adapter for logic app. So let me quickly do that. In my previous videos, I have explained how you can get a hold of this exe file. Okay, now we go ahead with the receive location. And because of this installation, I can see an adapter called Logic App. But I go ahead with the further configuration. I see that it's asking for an endpoint address, and that's where I need to go and set up my IS endpoints. So we're going to be back here soon. So let's first work on the IS and come back here. So as the communication is to be a level of Biztalk server management database, so we need an account that has an access to that level. So let me create an app pool. So now I have an account. Under this account, I'll have an access till the BizTalk management server. Now I need to work on those two web application that I need to expose them. So one, I'm going to call it as endpoint management. Or let it be EPM. So when I install that adapter, I got two services created. One is management service, which will give me an access to the schemas and receive location. That's done. And let me go ahead and create the other one also, and I call it as EP service. This will communicate with the receive location. Probably through this the actual message will reach to the Biztalk server. Looks good now. And let me go here and show you that it exposes the schemas files inside the database. So I have one application and the schema is also shown here, the schema one. And for the other one, first I have to go into that folder and make some changes in the access policies. Let me go there. It's taking longer than expected. And what it is asking for me to go and enable the receive location. So we're back here to the receive location window. And for the security, let's make it none for the time being in the security session. Let's apply this. I think we are done. So the endpoint is ready. If we go back to the presentation, the step 2 is ready, and we have to move to the step 3 where I have to install the gateway on the Biztalk server, and then I have to use Microsoft School or work account to register the gateway. So let's do this step now. So I have already downloaded the exe for the gateway installation. This I am doing on my Biztalk server. The gateway will help to connect to the local data source, and in this case it's Biztalk server. So installation is successful, but then it's asking for registration, and as I mentioned that for registration I need to do it with the help of a Microsoft School or Microsoft account, work account, and that too it has to be registered with the Power BI. But at this moment the Power BI registration is a limitation. I'm sure this will go very soon. It'll be not required, but right now it is. So let's use Azure Active Directory domain to create a new work or a school account. For that, I need to go to my current subscription of Azure, and there's an option here, Active Directory. But let me refresh this. We're going to add a user. Now, as I said, that we have to register it under the Power BI, and parallelly, let me open another portal on Azure with the new credentials. I'm going to log in into that Azure portal. So remember, we are registering with the new account jagjot at the rate domain.com. And I'm going to give the gateway name also as jagjot, only for the simplicity. Maybe I can write gateway as suffix. Just to make sure that the new changes are adapted, I need to restart this gateway. So this portion is done on the Biztalk server. Now it's time for us to associate our Azure subscription with an on-premises gateway. For that, I would be moving to our Azure portal, and there's an option here called Enterprise Integration, which is sort of a place for Logic App application if we are looking at some advanced integration solutions. And on-premises data gateway is under preview. I'm going to select that, and what it says that I am not as yet. I remember. I mean, there's a mistake I made, that I have to add this user, the new user, as a co-admin. So let me do that now. Go to the settings. Now it's good to go. The region I'm selecting is Southeast Asia, and you'll see that it came automatically in the drop down because the gateway we registered on Biztalk server was under this account jagjot@domain.com, and the same Azure subscription I have it now. So there's a bridge sort of thing between them happening with the help of this email ID. So we're all ready to create this Azure resource or a gateway resource on the Azure. And let me explain you a little with the help of a presentation that what must be happening in the background, or what will happen now with the gateway on premises installed and configured. And at the same time, we do have a gateway resource on our Azure account. So the Logic app will create a query, and that would be under encrypted credentials for the data source, and it will be sent to the gateway to process via the service bus. And the gateway gets a query, decrypt the credentials, and connect to the Biztalk, which is sort of a data source for us on the on premises. And once it receives the query, it's going to execute it, and the results are going to be sent back from the Biztalk to the gateway, and probably on the reverse direction to the cloud service. At this moment, it is Logic app for us. So this is how the gateway will communicate in the background, and Azure service bus will be used in the background. So remember, any communication which is happening from Logic app to Biztalk is via a secured gateway. Now that's the final step left, that we have to use the Logic app designer for utilizing the Biztalk connector. So let's do it this quickly. I'm going to create a logic app here now. And already I have a JSON schema.net. I have used that to create a schema file to, and this is what would be the JSON data that I want to key in into my logic app. From logic app, probably it will talk to the receive location of my Biztalk server. So in a logic app, what I'm looking for is the request trigger. So this will start the logic app when an HTTP request is received. Uh-oh, I selected the wrong file. Here the Biztalk connector we will use to prepare a message from the JSON file. And watch this carefully now. I will grab that URL of management. If you remember, it was EPS EPM / schema, but I just need the EPM till EPM, that's it. So let me make changes here. That's the machine name. So I got the gateway in the drop down automatically. That will help me to get an access to the schema file here now. So that's the body which is going to come from an HTTP request, and the schema file, I'm expecting it to get loaded because I'm connected through the gateway. Great. And what I do next is send a message to the Biztalk server. Send a message. So before I do this, what I have to do is go back here, because I realized a minute back that I have some issue with the service. It's not working. So I have to go to the service location, enable it. Let me check whether it's on now. Yes. And let's go back here. Here we get the receive location, and the body is coming from the earlier step. This is what I'm going to send it to the Biztalk via this receive location. And the data which I want to send it says the enter a valid JSON. That's strange. I'm going to use an application called Postman to trigger this request, HTTP request, or to trigger the logic app via an HTTP request. Before I click on the send, there's one more thing I have to do here on the Biztalk server, is that I have to subscribe to this receive location. So just remember the receive port name is RPLA, and let me go to the send port. Let me pass through. But the important thing is the filter here now. RPLA was the value here of the receive port name. It should be somewhere here now. Good. And I need to start this application also. So whenever I'm going to trigger on this URL, the request will trigger the logic app, and from logic app will trickle down, and from there we'll invoke the receive location of the Biztalk, and the message Prabjot Singh Bakshi will go to the out folder. So let's see if it happens. So this is done. Let me go to the on-premises look, and yes, we can see the data here now. I can do one thing. I maybe send to try with a different username. Here we go, Harry as the first name. So this is the example where I'm able to communicate from the logic app to the Biztalk server. And remember, the communication which is happening is via a secured gateway tunnel. And that's it, I guess. So part 1 and part 2 makes it complete. In the part 1 we had a communication from the Biztalk to the Logic app, and in part 2 we're having a communication from Logic app to the Biztalk server, and now in the part 3 I'll create a small use case wherein I'll demonstrate that how effectively you can use the SaaS application in your current Biztalk on-premises solution and lift it to the next level. Thank you.